Welcome to the High Ticket Success Podcast, where premium coaches, consultants, and advisors come for bold strategies, big breakthroughs, and real results. I'm your host, Dave DeBow.
Chances are, if you've been in business for any time, you've heard about this thing called copy and copywriting. Putting words out there, either on paper, not so much these days, or online on the screen, that grab your ideal prospect's attention and suck them in and hopefully lead them down the path of doing business with you. Question is, how good are you at copywriting? If you're like me, probably not that great. So pay close attention, because our guest today is definitely very, very good at that. Donnie Bryant has been doing this for almost 2 decades. You wouldn't know that from looking at him, but he's very, very experienced in the world of copywriting, and he has niched it down, and he focuses on one specific kind of clientele that he does a lot of business with. So Donnie, welcome to the show. Great to have you.
Thank you so much, Dave. I'm honored to be here. And just for the record, none of my family knows what copywriting is.
You better write him a letter. So Donnie, we won't go too far into the backstory, but just out of curiosity, copywriting's not everybody's cup of tea. How did you get into this field?
I actually grew up thinking I was going to be a writer, but I assumed I'd write books or something. Never really knew how to do that. Went the traditional route. I went to college, dropped out of college when I met the girl of my dreams, and then discovered it costs money to support a wife.
The girls of our dreams can be expensive sometimes.
They certainly can be.
Especially once they leave. That's a different podcast. Anyhow, sorry, I interrupted.
As they say, it's cheaper to keep her. So, but I without a degree, I just got into retail, but I kept coming around to, I was writing messages of one sort or another in pretty much every job that I had. And my wife, so this is where it pays off. She said, why don't you dig into that? You always said you liked writing. Maybe you could make a career out of it. And in 2007, I decided, you know what, my wife is right. I should do this. And just started trying to learn while I was working full time, and everything kind of built from there.
Very cool. So these days, tell us a little bit about, after all these years of experience, what you've kind of narrowed things down to for yourself and your business.
Yeah, I found maybe a lot of people can relate to this. I didn't grow up getting much financial education. My father made a pretty good amount of money, but he never taught me anything about how to use it. And then when I got to be an adult, I didn't have any foundational knowledge to do well financial with. And so as I was beginning to develop my craft as a copywriter, I kept coming around to the idea of, I didn't want to get into financial, but it kept coming up. And then out of nowhere, the moment I decided I was going to work with coaches, because I found that I had a lot of success and fun working with coaches, and I created a lead magnet. I did a bunch of marketing, and as soon as I did that, out of nowhere, I got financial clients. Very strange.
So financial clients, what does that mean exactly? You're working with banks, you're working with bookkeepers, you're working with financial advisors. What does financial client mean? Yeah,
there is actually a kind of a wide swath. Back then, I was working with educators, people who are teaching options trading and teaching personal finance kind of stuff. Over time, I've covered almost everything except traditional banking, financial advisors, registered investment advisors, accountants, including kind of big firms, financial newsletters, done a lot of work with financial newsletters, even firms that sell precious metals. I've done a lot, insurance, annuities, all kinds of stuff.
So you got a face full of education about financial stuff.
I've learned
paid for it too. That's pretty smart.
It works out well that way.
Yeah. Very cool. So how long have you been really focused on this niche?
Niche, either one works, right?
I'm Canadian, so I get them screwed up all the time. So niche is what I'd naturally say.
I grew up in North Dakota, not far at all from, actually just south of Winnipeg. Okay. So we had the Canadians.
You're weird speaking Canadians. Yeah, there you go.
Well, you can barely distinguish us, I think.
Yeah. North Dakota, that's true.
But now I forget the question. That's hilarious. Oh, niche.
Yeah.
No,
How did you focus on this niche?
Yeah, it's been now 11, 12 years.
Okay. Yeah. So are you exclusive to these guys, or do you do copywriting for other people as well?
It's primary. That's who I target.
Yeah.
But if I meet an entrepreneur or an expert or creator who's doing work that is exciting, and I can see a future of working with them well, having a good relationship with them, then I'll consider it. It's been a while since that was the case, though.
So for you, Donnie, do you tend to work with people on a very ongoing basis? I guess you would if you're in the kind of the newsletter side of things. Sure. But yeah, is that?
Yeah. And I'd say it's probably 75% of my client work ends up being, having quite a duration of time. I have one client that I'm continuing to work with. It's been 9 years.
Nice.
So, we're talking about wives who my wife loves to know about this client, because the client, you can predict what's going to happen with them. I do, one-off projects. A lot of times a wealth manager might need an onboarding sequence or something like that. So there's one-off projects like that come up from time to time, or big launches, things like that.
So out of the spectrum of people that you've worked with over the last dozen years in the financial space, who would you say make up the bulk of the majority of your clients? Is there like one specific kind of financial person, or is it really just really broad?
It's kind of evolved over time, but in the past 12 years, the most common work has been in financial publishing. So the newsletters, and Agora style. I've done a little work for Agora Financial for those of your listeners who know that company. But that's sort of in that vertical of the financial space. But I've done quite a bit with tax advisors, accountants as well, and registered investment advisors too. So it's totally opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Somehow I bridged the gap. I'm not sure how that happens.
Well, hey, that makes a lot of sense. So over the last few years, I know a lot of people in the copywriting space have been affected by the onslaught of artificial intelligence, and people thinking they can just crank out everything they need via ChatGPT. Yep. What is your take on this, and how has this affected you and your business?
Yeah, it's very ubiquitous. That there's a lot of hype around the technology, and the technology is very good.
Yeah.
At some things.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Sam Altman tweeted, maybe it was 2 years ago, we'll have super persuasion or super persuasive AI before we have super intelligence or artificial general intelligence. I think that he's totally incorrect about that. Mm-hmm. So AI is great for ideation. You've heard this. And in fact, David Deutsch was on the show not long ago talking about some of this. But it's great for coming up with ideas. It's great for giving yourself different perspectives on things. I think it's pretty good. I hear a lot of people saying they use it for research. I think you have to be careful with research that's not your own research.
Yeah.
Because
that hallucinates sometimes, that's for sure.
Hallucinate and generalize, where you find that your own audience or your own client base has a unique nuance to it, or many unique nuances to it. And so what makes sense generally, even if it's 90% of the market, which AI will assume that's true for your niche as well, or your particular audience as well. And it may not be. So you can use it as a foundation for research, but you still have to know your audience. And I think AI is also good for giving foundational starter copy. But when it comes to what you actually send out to your audience, what you send to your prospects, your leads, your customers, whether it's your newsletter or it's a webinar, anything that you really need to persuade and even educate in a unique way that's meaningful and unique to you, AI can't quite get there yet. And I think it's quite a ways off.
So, Donnie, when you're working with a new client, well, let me ask you this way. Have you ever worked with a financial client who's kind of starting from scratch and really doesn't have a clue, isn't doing a newsletter, doesn't know the first thing about really drip sequences or communicating well? Have you ever worked with anybody like that?
Sure. Yeah, it's in most cases usually it's not that way because
they're doing something. They're just not
right.
doing it particularly well, perhaps.
When you're first beginning as in any space, you make a list of all the things you need to do and all the investments that you need to make. Copywriting is not usually at the top of those.
It's not at the top. Yeah.
Well, it should be.
Yeah.
But you say I need to have a website, and I can put word. I learned how to write my ABCs in kindergarten. I can put words on the page, and I can copy what other people in my space are doing. So people will usually not call me that early in the game. They usually have had some level of development and had made some attempts at marketing, and they've often seen, okay, I really don't know how to do this, or I don't have the time to really craft this messaging. And so I'll just find someone to help me with that. So that's how it usually works for me.
What's your favorite kind of before and after story of one of the clients that you've worked with, either currently or in the past?
Sure.
Yeah. I
tell this story a lot, so I'll try to make it succinct, but I had a client who was doing very well, a newsletter client. Well, they were doing pretty well, but they had reached a plateau in revenue. And in bringing in new leads, bringing in new front-end buyers, meaning they bought the first low-ticket item, which is between $79 and $130. Mm-hmm. We tested prices. And they were kind of stuck. They were able to get repeat business from the people who were already in their universe, but getting new people was difficult for them. And so they needed new messaging.
Yeah.
And they reached out to me. I actually told them no. I was as busy as I wanted to be at the time. And so going back and forth with the owner of the firm, I gave him a ridiculous number, which he didn't like. But it took like 3 months and he decided, yeah, let's just go for it. We'll give it a try. And their product was very unique in that it's really a unique way of investing and picking stocks. And so strangely, it's what makes it really interesting to me is I had the idea for their front end video sales letter before I even met the owner of the firm. I didn't know how I was going to use it, but it was a little statement buried in JP Morgan's annual letter. So Jamie Dimon writes a letter every year with all the information. And there was just a little fact. It was actually our JP Morgan. They basically never lose money when they're trading their own money. They almost never lose. And so I found that and I said, I'm going to use this at some point. And it actually matched perfectly well with the offer that this firm was using. So I put that into a video sales letter. And I actually turned JP Morgan into kind of a bad guy because they're taking advantage of the little guy.
Yeah, they're losing your money, but they're not losing their own money.
Yeah, and how do we fix that? So it actually, anyway, long story short, that letter, it exploded response. It was something like 3 times, converted 3 times higher than the control.
Wow.
And we were able then at that point, well, also it increased the upsell, the take rate of the upsell by about 35%. And so we were able then to go to cold traffic. Suddenly, it was kind of scary. Like, what?
Yeah.
Let's just spend some money. And we continued tweaking that, but it remained a control, which means we just kept using it without really having to change it for 3 years.
Wow.
Generated 30,000 new customers for the client. And it was fun. It changed the business. Using that as a foundation, we tripled the size of the team as well. He was able to hire a bunch of new people. We built the business up, and they're doing very well now. We have separated since then, but it was a pretty spectacular story.
That is spectacular.
7x revenue within those 3 years. Not just off of that, but that was kind of the foundational piece because bringing in the new buyers, now they're exposed to all the offers that we have, and I was able to help work on some of the other marketing assets to sell those as well. So it ended up working really well for everybody.
Oh, that is smart. So that goes to show AI could not have done that. Like AI would not have, no, it wouldn't have had the insight to find that, to store that in its memory and spit it out at the perfect moment.
Wouldn't even necessarily know the question to ask AI. If you just said, chat, what's a unique idea to sell a product like this? And it will give you a bunch of things. How many of those are based in, I took a screenshot from the annual letter. This is what JP Morgan is telling you. They're telling you, if you read the letter, we don't lose money. Now, how do you feel about that? What are we going to do about that? It'll be difficult for AI to find that little thing and figure out the emotional angles to use to make people really curious to know more about that.
Most definitely. Now, not everything's a home run like that, but that shows you the potential for just a change in messaging, what a huge impact that could have to the bottom line of a business. I think you said it helped them 7x their business over 3 years. Yeah.
7x that was
your home run. That's a good one.
That's the one the story that I love to tell.
Of course.
Take great pride in that. And again, the weird thing was the idea was just, I didn't know what I was going to use that JP Morgan fact about or where I was going to deploy it. But I knew that was a special idea.
Yeah.
So it worked out really well. I couldn't have predicted it in advance, but it worked out well.
Well done. Donnie, this is fascinating stuff. Copy is super important. You can't rely 100% on ChatGPT. If you suck at copywriting, find somebody who doesn't, not just ChatGPT.
Yes.
Get some help. Speaking of which, if people want to connect with you, Donnie, whether they're in the financial business or not, what's the best way for them to do that?
I have a website, Donnie, which is spelled DONNIE -Bryant, BRYANT.com. And I'm pretty active on LinkedIn as well. You can just search for Donnie Bryant. There's a couple of us, but I think I'm the only copywriting Donnie Bryant, so you'll be able to find me there.
In Chicago. So there you go.
That will definitely help.
That'll narrow it down. Donnie, thanks for being on the show. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, everybody, take care, and we will see you on the next one.
Thanks for listening to the High Ticket Success Podcast. Want to be featured? Share your story and inspire other premium coaches, consultants, and advisors? Apply now at highticketsuccesspodcast.com/guest.